Music City, Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, it's great. You know, a lot of people think that you've got to be a superstar to make it in Nashville, and it's not true. I was a chauffeur part-time for 4 years in Nashville, and in fact, one of my new non-fiction books I might as well plug is called The Careless Driver, from my experiences as a chauffeur.
The Careless Driver, I like that.
yeah. It's actually mostly interviews with people that were in my car that were from all different states and around the globe. So it's got a great cross section of data.
Yeah. And not just necessarily country artists, but other musicians as well.
All kinds of people, athletes, architects, CPAs, just all kinds of people. People work at Vanderbilt University. All kinds of people, but just people that were willing to discuss their training and who taught them and where they learned their education and training. But let me get back on track here. So
sure.
Fleetwood Mac is in town, and so the thing was what I found out by talking with artists that I would pick, and these would be the people in my car. These are people like the drummer for Black Eyed Peas, and there's another guy. Oh, I had about 3 or 4 really well-known artists in the car in the last 4 years. And by the way, guys, I'm a full-time author now. I'm not doing that anymore. That was a good thing. It was a good thing to really help, pay the bills and promote my books and stuff. But, I'm full-time now. So these guys would tell me, you don't have to be a big star. You just have to be good. You just have to be a good, have a good performing ability in front of, an audience, and be on time, and, put your money put your money away and don't spend it lavishly. And a lot of guys are making very good livings as musicians in Nashville and around Nashville, because there's so many restaurants and there's so many bars and there's so many venues outside of Nashville where you don't have to be a big star, a big name, and you can make $1,000, $2,000 a week playing.
Wow.
Maybe, playing 3 nights, because you play at night usually, right?
Yeah.
And you play maybe 2 sets, 3 sets, an hour or 2 a set. I mean, come on. And so if you're really good, you don't have to even have a big name or a big band behind you, and you can do very well.
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, I think I heard a story that Garth Brooks did that. Started out just doing the gigs and local, mic nights and restaurants and stuff for a few years before anybody even took him seriously. Oh, yeah.
The story I like to tell is the one I saw. It was on a TV interview with, Jason Aldean. Okay, Jason Aldean. I think that name is still very well known now.
Oh, sure.
He came to Nashville with nothing. Just his talent, his drive, you might call it. And he must have done more than 30 of these label, about 30 of these label meetings with the executives for record labels, and nothing ever happened. And he had been doing this for almost 5 years. And he was about ready to give up and go back to, I don't know. I'm not sure which state he was from. Doesn't really matter. It wasn't Tennessee. And he got a call. He had one more. He said, "All right, I'll do one more label interview, and I'll play some." And that was the one that landed him a career.
Yeah. Isn't that the way it goes? Holy mackerel!
Yeah.
Just as you're about ready to give up the ghost and go home, something. Yeah. But it goes to show you that there's a heck of a lot of hard work that goes into getting to that last interview or that last audition.
Well, I think the point I'm trying to make is, for anybody who is in any kind of artistic field, is you've got to put in the labor, the due diligence. He put in 5 years of his life, not just these, record label auditions, but he was always constantly playing and getting more fans and doing gigs and, doing freebies and stuff like that. And that's what got him into a position where he could experience success. Because some people just they don't put enough work in to experience success. They don't. If it came to them, they would screw it up and just let it go by, or they would discredit it. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. No, definitely. I spent about 11 years in the music industry in Los Angeles. At one point, by the way, Chaz, I was the host in the green room backstage at Universal Studios Amphitheater in my mid-20s, hanging out with Sinatra, Willie Nelson, all the major acts that would come through the Universal Studios. And I know exactly what you're talking about. I would see artists on the way up, and then I would see them on the way down, And,
not all of them, some of them, but not all of them. Yeah.
Right. But it made a whole heck of a lot of difference. Even if they had talent, if they didn't treat people well and got along, with folks, it could have been a short career for some of them. Usually the ones that are around for a long time are just the nicest people in the world, is what I found out.
Yeah, and that's even doubly true here in Nashville. It's almost like a brotherhood or a family, because we're very Christian oriented in this town. We really protect our children. People go to church. A lot of people go to church on Sunday and even on Wednesday night. So if you turn on somebody, you're pretty much going to be you're going to be banished to another planet.
Yeah, pretty much. You're right. It's a small community out there, that's for sure. But what a fascinating place to walk down Music Row and see all those clubs and the shops. I backpacked one summer and got to spend a bunch of time downtown Nashville. That was quite amazing. But gosh, this is great. So you're out in that neck of the woods, and you're a writer, and you're into the paranormal. Even though you've got this kind of Christian background and those kinds of things, I've got to confess to you that I have always been interested in the paranormal. But for quite a few years, I was the vice president of Puget Sound Christian College out here in the Seattle area, and attended a Pentecostal church for 20 years, sang in the choir, the whole thing. But during that entire time, I was still interested in what some of those real interesting stories in the Bible really were. And so it's fascinating for me to run across a gentleman like yourself that might have that same kind of questioning atmosphere or, questions, even though you are a person of faith, it sounds like, as well.
Yeah, and I actually had spent a year in a choir myself and learned to harmonize, which I found to be very edifying, very satisfying. A lot of people love to sing, but they don't want to sing with other people because they sound terrible. But if you can get instruction and work with a choir, after a while you can learn to harmonize, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to do that. And of course, we love to listen to a cappella or groups or people who have a natural, or sounds like they have a natural ability to just chime in with anybody, improvisationally, just spontaneously. It's just a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, and I don't know about if you felt this as well, Chaz, but when you're in a choir of 20, 30, 50, maybe even 100 people in a massive church choir, when you're singing in a section, tenors, bass, altos, sopranos, whatever, there is this vibration that you get just by being there and matching the tones by the people around you, and like you said, harmonizing as well. That is very therapeutic, I think. I think it's one of the things that people could or should do for their own health.
Very true. Very true. Yes. Very true.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. You don't have to be the best singer in the world either to make it in a choir and really enjoy it as well. So I would encourage people to give that a shot. Gives you something to do on a weekly basis as well, and to commiserate and kind of have a fun time with some folks that you end up being pretty good friends with as well.
Not only that, but when you do listen to music or watch, let's have some of these live shows like The Voice, when they have the live final 4 weeks, you really understand that these voices have been cultivated during the previous 2 or 3 months, and they've come so far. And it's true, you can actually tell that the person has gotten very, very much better. And I think it's in one of my essays about aesthetics, I mentioned that we're seeing more and more of that these days. We're seeing more and more live shows. We're seeing more of these shows that acknowledge and validate skilled performers, skilled artists. And our culture is it's very thirsty for that kind of thing, because a culture is composed of and is almost entirely, how shall I say, engineered almost to survive with an aesthetic. Man cannot live by bread alone. Remember that one? Man cannot live by bread alone. That is a succinct way of saying, if you have $1, take half of it and buy some hyacinths. That's another Asian phrase which says the same thing. In other words, you cannot just go around your 9 to 5 football games on Saturday. You've got to put something into society, into the culture. You've got to build a model plane. You've got to sing a song. You've got to learn how to play an instrument, or you've got to at least go where there are people doing that and applaud them.
Yeah, there you go. At the very least, you could enjoy that as well, and kind of commiserate and kind of resonate with other people's talents as well. I enjoy doing that many times, and I think what the Voice is all about. Those shows where the most amazing singers in the world are gleaned, through major auditions across the country, and of course we see the cream of the crop, on the television. It is fascinating to see. I mean, can you imagine what that would have been like to have the technology to get all these people that 50 years ago were just as talented probably and never got a chance to perform, like some of the classics out there, the people that finally did make it, Yeah, it was matter of fact, I got to relate this story to you now that we're talking about music and stuff. I was just listening to our local radio station out here in Seattle, and they're doing the 100 best Christmas songs of all time, or Christmas, productions of all time. And they count down from, 199 or whatever. The number one Christmas song of all time, was voted by Billboard and a bunch of other, sites and radio stations who actually played all the stuff over the last 50 years or so, was Jingle Bell Rock.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? And it was by Brenda Lee, and Brenda Lee was 13 years old at the time she sang that song. Of course, she was famous for having this big female grown-up voice in a little dinky girl, at the time. And then I heard that Brenda Lee was the only artist to have charted in the top 20 in every single genre of music: gospel, rock, soul, R&B, and everything. I couldn't believe that. And Brenda Lee, I just thought that was fascinating. I thought you'd like to know that.
Yeah, that is something. And you know what? The song "The Little Drummer Boy," I thought, I first heard that maybe 20 years ago, and I thought, that's within my lifetime. It comes from 1942. It was written by a woman.
Really?
And I was so surprised that it was that old. I mean, it's during the war.
Yeah.
During World War II.
Very
interesting. It's like Brenda Lee. Who would have thought?
No, who would have thought? And matter of fact, I believe the gorgeous Brenda Lee is still alive. I have not heard that she's passed yet. She is very. I mean, she's kind of petite. She's like only about 4'8" or something like that. I remember
Yeah.
seeing her live one time and realizing how small she was.
Yeah.
But the big voice that comes out of her,